at the Auburn Cemetery in Auburn, Kentucky, and this is the headstone for Grandpa and Grandma Lester and Bertha Maxwell. And this is the headstone of Grandpa Lester and Grandma Mousie at the Auburn Cemetery. We're in Bucksville, Kentucky, and this is the old building that was the Gasper River Schoolhouse. And Earl Maxwell attended here for I don't know what grades, but this was where he started school and got his school education.
Mary went here also, and your Uncle Howard went here. Now I can't speak for the other two children.
And looking on past the school building, you can see a church, and that is the Pleasant Hill Baptist Church in Bucksville, Kentucky. And at Bucksville is the one and only country store, and it was always run by the Walton family during the...
As I know it.
It's been here maybe over 80 years. It's been remodeled and improved, a little more modern, but this is the Walton store. Here's the sign of the Pleasant Hill Baptist Church, front of the church. It's been remodeled, probably inside as well as the outside. This is a church that Mary went to. She belonged here, her and her mother, and they belonged. We're down to the Gasper River Common Presbyterian Church. This is the home church of the Maxwell family. Here is the Gasper River Church. Like so many older buildings and older churches, it too has underwent renovation and remodeling, had additions and changes on the outside. There's Mama standing there looking up at the church. You can see the back door, which is part of the fellowship hall. It's been added on. They're adding on some more to the old Gasper River Church. This is going to be a Sunday school room and a nursery, and it's being added on in the fall of 1996. Here we are at the Pleasant Hill Cemetery in Bucksville, Kentucky. As you can see, I'm at the Maxwell headstone. This is Daddy's grave marker, James Earl Maxwell. And it's the grave marker, that was Daddy's first wife, Mother Bill and Bobby. And it's also the marker for Wilma Louise Maxwell, mother of Glenn and Brenda. Also at the Pleasant Hill Cemetery is the grave of Elvis Barra. This is his grave marker. And this is also the grave marker for Nanny Mae Barra,
Which are Mary's parents.
Bill and Bob's grandparents. Also at Pleasant Hill Cemetery is the graves of Betty Barra and William Barra, and these are the great-grandparents of Bill and Bob. This was Mary's mother and father.
Grandmother.
Excuse me, this was Mary's mother and grandmother and grandfather. This is another grave of the Barras. This is William Howard Barra. This was Mary's only brother. His wife Hetty is still living. And another grave at Pleasant Hill cemetery is the grave of Louise Maxwell's mother, Lula Holland Cropper, and also the grave of Louise Maxwell's father, J.W. or Bill Cropper, and also the grave of the only grandmother that Glenn Maxwell and Brenda knew, and Bobby, and that Billy would remember, is Grandma Lou Cropper, Granddaddy Bill's second wife. The house you see here is the home that stands today, and it's the same house, even though it's been remodeled and made to look a little different, that Mr. Billy and Miss Betty Barrow lived in. And Pievis Barrow lived here during the last few years of his life. This is where I remember him living.
Well, this is the old Maxwell house, which has been family except Cullen was born down here at this place. And Mr. and Ms. Maxwell moved to what we called up on the hill, just a few yards or feet from this one, and that's where Cullen was born. Log cabin. I don't know how many rooms it had, but they said that's where Mr. Maxwell was born at before he moved down in this other house.
Scanning out on past the house, you'd see bottom land, and that bottom land is separated by the Gasper River, and we'll be taking a picture of it in just a little bit later.
And if you see the barn, Earl was to take Carlton's Model T Ford and put it up one day, and he forgot to put the brakes on and run through the doors, hit the buggy and pushed it out the other end. And I guess they really took his hide. The Maxwell place that we always refer to as the one up on the hill. And Earl lived here for a while, I don't know just how long. And Cullen was born here. And then to the left, down in the bottom there used to be a nice dwelling rental house. But I think it's gone now.
How many acres was here when great-granddaddy bought it?
I don't know. I have no idea, but they said it was close to 500 when Mr. Maxwell and Ms. Maxwell lived here, up here on the hill.
Some pretty ground, rolling hills.
At one time, this house was a beautiful, I'd call it the southern type home. It was remodeled and really made a beautiful home. But to look at it now, you wouldn't know.
I was in this house when I was in high school. A good friend of mine lived here, and it was a beautiful house. Had the prettiest hardwood floors. They had painted and papered it. It was just beautiful. And it's been let go. Okay, what we're fixing to do is walk up to the Gasper River Bridge. Many years ago, and I can remember it as a child, it was a wooden covered bridge. One of the last ones in this area. And that was taken down, I'd say probably 25 years ago. I'm standing on the bridge, the old Gasper River Bridge. And you can see the Gasper River. See all the farmland out through there. And I'm going to scan up to the first house I showed you. Going to bring it into focus. And I want you to pay attention to the top floor, the 3 windows on the top. This is said to be the original part of the house where great-granddaddy Tom lived. And our daddy and our granddaddy was born. Of course, the house has been remodeled and added onto, but the initial structure was just a one-floor building. The more of the Gasper River, just a lazy flowing river until
And
it
cold
rains.
as ice.
Yeah, it's extremely cold. All of us Maxwell children that went swimming down at the old farm where we were born, it's very cold.
What they used to call an old blue hole. And then the spring after spring after spring runs into this, is made Gasper River.
Okay, the house that you're looking at now is not the original house that was here, but this is the property where Granddaddy Lester lived in his last days. There used to be, where you see the building back out in there used to be an orchard with pears and peach and apple trees. And we would have the tobacco patch on out in the field over here. And this is the barn that stands.
It's the original one.
The original one. It's been painted and had windows and paint put on it. This was Granddaddy's barn. There it stands majestic up on the rise. Granddaddy kept cattle all the time, and the cattle was forever in and out of the barn. The barn. I was just telling Mama, I guess the last time it had a roof put on it was when Daddy and I put the roof on. Still looks in pretty good shape.